Hi, this is Alex from devstories.eu. Microsoft Copilot Studio, Episode 9 of 15. Your agent needs to execute a complex backend workflow spanning multiple systems. Maybe it needs to query an isolated database, filter the data, and update an inventory system all at once. A single API call cannot handle that orchestration. The solution is an agent flow. Agent flows bridge Copilot Studio with Power Automate. They allow you to package a multi-step automation as a standalone tool that your agent can trigger autonomously. The agent relies entirely on the name and description you provide for the flow. Based on that text, the agent decides if the flow can solve the current user request. When it finds a match, the agent extracts the necessary parameters from the conversation, passes them into the flow, waits for the execution, and uses the final output to generate an answer. The structure of an agent flow is strict. It must start with a specific trigger designed for Copilot, which explicitly defines the text or number inputs. It must end with a specific action that responds back to Copilot, defining the text or number outputs. Everything between those two nodes is standard Power Automate logic. You can loop through arrays, call custom connectors, or parse files. Consider a scenario where your agent needs to retrieve order history from a legacy SQL database. The user asks for their recent orders. The agent triggers the flow, passing the customer ID string as an input. Inside the flow, you build the logic to connect to the SQL database, execute the query, and format the raw database rows into a clean JSON string. The flow then passes that formatted string back to the agent through the response node. The agent reads the string, extracts the order details, and replies to the user in natural language. Here is the key insight. The execution must be entirely synchronous. The agent initiates the flow and keeps the connection open, waiting for the response. If you build an asynchronous flow, it will not work as an agent tool. You cannot include steps that pause the logic. If your flow sends an approval email and waits for a human to click a button, the agent will break. The tool pattern requires an immediate return of data. This brings us to a hard system limit. You have exactly 100 seconds. From the moment the agent triggers the flow, the logic has 100 seconds to execute every step, query the database, format the output, and send the response back to the agent. If the legacy SQL server is under load or if your flow iterates through too many records, the execution will exceed the timeout limit. When that happens, the agent drops the connection entirely and returns an error message to the user. To handle this limit, you must keep the automation tightly scoped. If a backend process takes 5 minutes, do not run it inside the agent flow. Instead, use the flow to kick off an external background job and immediately return a tracking ID to the agent. Your automation architecture must respect the timeout window. Design your flows to execute quickly, retrieve exactly what is needed, and return control to the agent, ensuring the user is never left talking to a stalled connection. That is all for this one. Thanks for listening and keep building.